Your character, Marcelo, is not inherently violent, but you almost see him shift to become someone different throughout the movie in order to survive. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, he can be. He can, because we all can be potentially violent in a situation where we are threatened or the injustice is so incredibly strong that we are human beings. What I like about this character is that he's never portrayed as a hero or as a guy who is able to do like heroic things, but he's just a man who is trying to stick with his values in a place where everything around him is just saying the opposite. That happens in dictatorships, right? Like when you think, when you just the fact that you are who you are makes your life can put you in danger, right? Like just being who you are can become a death threat. And yeah, and when you are in a situation like that, you can become violent.
And you wrote this specifically with Wagner in mind.
I did. From the very beginning, it was a film that I wanted to develop with Wagner, and that's how it turned out. I was very confident in his charisma because I've been watching his work for many years, films and even things he did for television. And I think Wagner has a very strong screen presence and he's a very charismatic star. I mean, he's a star. And I think that's one way of looking at how you develop a story. I mean, who's going to be the face of your story? And once you realize that, he doesn't really need a gun, he needs to be in rich, interesting, dramatic situations. And that's what I try to develop making this film.
Well, and there are a lot of layers to this film. There's something that you weave in throughout the film, which is the hairy leg. Can you talk about that and how it kind of is incredibly significant to the story?
Well, first of all, I love urban legends. Each city, each region has its own urban legend, fairy tale. Recife is a city which has many different urban legends. The hairy leg was developed it came about in the 1970s when journalists used it as a code for saying that last night or 2 nights ago the police were violent or sent people to hospital, usually in public places. And because they were not really allowed to say that because of censorship, they used the code, the hairy leg attacked again. And at the time, it was an incredibly popular rumor or urban legend, almost like a fairy tale, that I got to hear myself as a child. My mother read from the newspaper about the hairy leg over breakfast one day. And I always wanted to almost do like an origin story of the hairy leg. And I'm happy to see so many people in so many countries now discussing the hairy leg and asking questions about the hairy leg, which is so inherently local and very much, from the city where I come from in Brazil.
I have to say, I love the movie references. I love the meeting spot in a movie theater and the Jaws. Yeah. But what do you think will surprise audiences the most about this movie?
I hope each and every sequence in the film is a surprise for audiences. I mean, that's the least I can do as a storyteller and as a filmmaker. I think films, any narrative, I mean, from talking to a friend to telling a story using cameras in a film, you can use traditional narrative the way I think I used in this film, but you can still surprise people either because you're using a logic which is not the logic of cinema, but the logic of life or the logic of history, or maybe you're so in love with the characters that they are unpredictable. I think the best characters in cinema, in literature, and in life, they are unpredictable. And that's one thing that I really went for writing The Secret Agent.
And we see you back in your Brazilian roots.
Very excited to be back. It's a long time that I didn't work in Portuguese, speaking Portuguese, and I couldn't couldn't be in a better film than in this one. I was working with Kleber, I've been trying to work with. One thing that I was talking about surprising is like he has this quality of like he knows so much about movies and used to be a critic and all that. So all the references of the world of cinema that he has, and he manages to transform all that into a Brazilian thing. And I think that this might surprise people because it's aesthetically, people are going to go, look, oh, I know this zooms and references, and then the way he shoots is so cool and so beautiful, but the content is very Brazilian. And I think I think the hairy leg is going to surprise people. I think to make a short answer.
This is a Brazilian film, but it's very much in love with Jaws, with Brazilian cinema, with Cronenberg. You know, we're in Canada, and there is one sequence I think is very Cronenbergian.
Which one?
I think when there was a certain shootout towards the end of the film, which gets very, very graphic. I thought of Cronenberg. I love him. Hello, Cronenberg.